paper gives me something official to point to if they try changing the terms later. A few days later, I'm coming home from the school when I see Dad loading his golf clubs into someone's car in the driveway. He hands over the clubs and takes cash from the buyer, then watches the car drive away with this bitter look on his face. Inside, he counts the money at the kitchen table, and I hear him mutter something about paying the credit card company before they sue him. He doesn't ask me for money that whole week, which feels like progress, even though I can tell he's upset about losing his golf stuff. Mom surprises everyone by announcing she got hired at a retail store in the mall doing part-time work. She starts the following Monday and comes home that first day complaining about standing for 6 hours straight and dealing with rude customers. Every evening after her shifts, she talks about how tired she is and how her feet hurt. But it's weird seeing her actually work for the first time in years. The extra money helps because we start eating cheaper meals at home more often instead of them ordering takeout. Mom makes pasta with basic sauce, rice and beans, simple chicken dishes that don't cost much. It's not fancy, but it means I'm not hiding in my room eating peanut butter sandwiches while they enjoy restaurant food. I actually sit at the table with them during dinner, which hasn't happened in forever. One evening, Mom and I end up alone in the kitchen washing dishes together after Dad goes to watch TV. She's scrubbing a pot and mentions out of nowhere that her parents were really strict about money when she was growing up. She says they made her account for every dollar and never let her buy anything fun. It's not an apology, and she doesn't connect it to how she's treated me, but it's the closest she's ever come to explaining why she acts the way she does. I just nod and keep drying plates because I don't know what to say to that. Dad gets a call about an interview at a warehouse across town, and his whole mood changes. He actually seems hopeful for the first time in weeks, talking about the pay rate and benefits while looking at the company website. The tension in the house drops a little while we wait to hear back about whether he got to the next round. I use some of my savings to take my lawnmower to the repair shop because the engine's been acting weird. The guy fixes it, and I also buy better equipment that will last longer, a new trimmer and some professional grade tools. Eliana sees me unloading everything and offers to let me organize her garage so all my business supplies are in one place and easy to access. We spend a Saturday afternoon setting up shelves and hanging tools on the wall. She labels everything and even makes a schedule board where I can track which clients need service each week. At work, Christian starts teaching me about payroll and taxes during slow shifts when there aren't many customers. He shows me how to read my pay stub and explains withholding and deductions. He talks about budgeting strategies and how to plan for big expenses. He treats me like an actual adult employee instead of just some kid, which feels good after being treated like a burden at home for so long. Boyd calls to check in and asks how things are going with my parents. I tell him about the mediation agreement and he says we should create a safety plan just in case they try to kick me out anyway. He has me write down Eliana's number, Mr. Gilmore's cell phone, and the address of a youth shelter downtown. He explains exactly what to do if I come home and the locks are changed or my stuff is gone. Knowing I have a plan makes me feel less scared about what might happen. My parents start cooking at home more regularly, and one day I notice the lock is gone from the pantry. Mom actually asks if I want anything special from the grocery store next time she goes, which is so weird I almost don't believe it's happening. She writes down that I like the wheat bread and a certain brand of peanut butter. It feels strange but good to have normal food access like a regular kid. Then I'm walking past the kitchen counter and see the cable bill sitting there with the payment amount circled. I pick it up and notice they've reactivated the sports package that Dad canceled a few weeks ago. All that progress with selling the golf clubs and cutting expenses, and they're already slipping back into their old spending patterns. The bill is almost $60 higher than it was, and they haven't even mentioned it to me. I put the paper back down and walk to my room feeling that familiar frustration building in my chest. They can't help themselves even when they're supposed to be learning to manage money better. 2 days later, I'm doing homework in my room when I hear raised voices from the kitchen. Dad's yelling about the bank sending an overdraft notice, and Mom's voice gets louder saying she didn't know the account was that low. I crack my door open and hear Dad accusing her of spending too much at Target while she fires back about his bar tab from last weekend. They go back and forth listing every purchase the other person made, neither one taking responsibility for their own spending. The argument lasts almost an hour before they both storm off to separate rooms, and I realize they learned absolutely nothing from the past few weeks. The next morning, Dad corners me before school and starts talking about how the household bills keep climbing. He says I need to start contributing something because the expenses are too high for just the two of them to handle. I pull out my phone and show him the photo I took of our written agreement from the mediation meeting, the one that says no rent until I'm 18. He gets red in the face, but I stay calm and tell him I'm not discussing it further because we already agreed on terms. He mutters something about ungrateful kids and walks away, but I can tell he's planning something else. That evening, Mom catches me in the hallway with this fake cheerful expression and starts explaining a new system she thought of. She says instead of calling it rent, we could do chore credits where I earn points for household tasks, and those points count toward covering expenses. I stare at her for a second before saying that sounds exactly like rent with extra steps, and the answer is still no. Her smile drops and she huffs off to complain to Dad about how difficult I'm being. I go to my room and text Boyd about what just happened, and he responds within minutes saying I should start documenting everything in detail. I open a new note on my phone and begin writing down what food is currently in the cabinets, what time my parents ordered pizza for dinner, while I ate cereal, and I take photos of the bills they left on the counter showing their spending patterns. Boyd said if we need to escalate the situation, having solid evidence will protect me from their version of events. I make entries every day noting when they buy takeout, when the pantry has food I can access, and any comments they make about money or my supposed obligations. The documentation makes me feel less powerless because at least I'm building a record of what's actually happening versus what they claim. 3 days later, I'm at the school when Mr. Gilmore calls me to her office and shows me an email she's drafting to my parents. The message is professional and polite, but the warning is crystal clear, stating that if the agreed terms from our mediation are violated in any way, she'll be required to file a formal report with Child Welfare Services. She asks if I'm okay with her sending it, and I nod, yes, knowing my parents will be furious, but also knowing they need this boundary enforced by someone with authority. She hits send while I'm sitting there, and I watch the email disappear into the void, heading toward my parents' inbox where it will definitely cause an explosion. That Saturday, I'm working my shift at the grocery store, restocking shelves in the cereal aisle, when I see Dad walk through the front doors. My stomach drops because he's not here to shop based on the angry expression on his face and the way he's scanning the store looking for me. He spots me and walks straight over, his voice getting loud as he starts going off about how I'm making them look like terrible parents and turning everyone against them. Customers are stopping to stare, and I feel my face burning with embarrassment as he keeps ranting about ingratitude and disrespect. Christian appears from the back room and walks up calmly, positioning himself slightly between me and Dad. He tells my father in this firm but polite voice that he needs to leave the store, and Dad starts arguing that he has a right to talk to his own daughter. Christian doesn't back down, just repeats that he needs to leave now, or Christian will call the police for causing a disturbance. Dad looks like he wants to argue more, but something in Christian's expression makes him turn around and storm out, shoving the door open hard enough that it bangs against the wall. I'm shaking so badly I have to sit down on a step stool, and both Christian and Ariana come over to check on me. Christian says I did nothing wrong and they have my back completely, while Ariana pulls out the incident report form and starts writing down everything that happened with times and details. She tells me in this matter-of-fact way that if Dad comes back to the store, they won't hesitate to call the police for trespassing, and knowing they're serious about protecting me makes me feel safer than I have in months. After my shift, I go straight to Mr. Gilmore's house and she gave me her address for emergencies, and I tell her everything about the store incident. Her expression gets more concerned as I talk, and when I finish, she says she needs to file that report with Child Welfare now, because my dad showing up at my workplace to confront me crosses a serious line. The next day, a woman named Kathleen calls my cell phone and introduces herself as a caseworker, explaining she needs to schedule a home visit to assess the situation. My whole body feels cold and relieved at the same time, because I wanted help, but I'm also scared about what happens next and whether this will make everything worse. Kathleen schedules the visit for Thursday afternoon and says she'll need to speak with me privately, inspect the house, and review some financial information with my parents. When I tell my parents about the visit, they immediately go into panic mode. Mom starts deep cleaning every room like we're preparing for a military inspection, scrubbing baseboards and organizing closets that haven't been touched in years. Dad coaches her on what to say, practicing answers about how they provide everything I need, and I'm just being dramatic about normal family disagreements. I listen to them rehearse their version of events and decide I'm not playing along with any of it. When Kathleen arrives on Thursday, I'm just going to tell her the truth calmly, and let her draw her own conclusions based on facts instead of my parents' spin. Thursday comes and Kathleen shows up right on time. A woman in her 40s with a professional but kind demeanor carrying a tablet and folder. She talks to all three of us together first, asking basic questions about our household and daily routines. Then she asks to speak with me alone in my room. I show her my budget notebook, my documentation of food access and spending patterns, and the photos of bills on my phone. She doesn't look shocked or judgmental, just takes notes and asks clarifying questions about specific incidents and timelines. After talking to me for almost an hour, she inspects the house room by room, checking the pantry and fridge and taking photos of her own. Finally, she sits down with my parents in the living room and I'm asked to join them. Kathleen speaks directly and clearly, telling my parents that charging rent to a minor child is inappropriate and potentially constitutes neglect of their legal duties. She explains they must ensure I have regular access to food and basic necessities, and she'll be monitoring the situation with follow-up visits. My parents nod and agree to everything she says, their faces showing a mix of embarrassment and resentment, but I can tell they understand she's not making suggestions. She's setting requirements they have to follow. Kathleen packs up her tablet and folder and walks to the door while my parents follow her with tight smiles on their faces. The second her car pulls away from the curb, the fake politeness drops completely. Mom goes straight to the pantry and removes the lock without saying a word, throwing it in the trash with more force than necessary. Dad pulls out his phone and starts scrolling through job listings while sitting at the kitchen table with his jaw clenched. Neither of them looks at me or acknowledges what just happened, but I can feel their anger filling up every corner of the house. Over the next few days, they buy groceries and leave them where I can reach them, but they arrange the items in a way that feels deliberate. Like they want me to know they're only doing this because they have to. Mom makes a point of sighing loudly whenever she puts food in the fridge, and Dad mutters under his breath about government overreach and people not minding their own business. The rent contract disappears from the counter, but nobody mentions it. Like pretending it never existed will somehow erase the whole situation. I keep my documentation updated anyway, taking photos of the unlocked pantry and the stocked fridge just in case things change again. 2 weeks after Kathleen's visit, Dad starts his warehouse job on the night shift loading trucks. He leaves for work at 10 p.m. and gets home around 7 a.m., sleeping most of the day before getting up to eat dinner and leave again. The exhaustion shows in everything he does, from the way he moves slower to how he falls asleep on the couch before his alarm goes off. The good part is that he's too tired